Thanks, Antti. Hello, everyone. So today I'll be talking about, as Antti mentioned, about AI and its impact on business and our society in general. Specifically, what hopes we have from AI, how realistic they are, and what fears do we have from AI and how realistic they are. So I'll quickly get started. That's a very simple outline of how I'll go about the presentation. I'll first give a brief history of AI that will remove some of the myths that we have about AI. I'll go about how AI is growing across different geographical locations, across different countries, and why. And then I'll go to 5 industry sectors that will be disrupted or could be eliminated by AI in the next 5 years. And then lastly, I'll address fears and concerns about AI that I've heard the most from different people. So to give a brief history of AI in a very simple way, it's often believed that AI is something that was born 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because that's when we started hearing more and more about it in the media and the press. But the reality is, the birth of AI happened in 1950. So this is Alan Turing, the photograph Alan Turing, father of computer science, who in 1950 asked a question or said the following: I propose to consider the question, can machines think? This was the first time that somebody talked about machines being able to think. This was the birth of AI, or the concept of AI. In 1950s and early 1960s, we saw a slew of things happening for AI. All the benefits that we in the industry reap from AI now, the foundations or the hard work was done by the previous generation of scientists in the 1950s. The programming languages, the neural networks, the coining of the term AI, it was all done in the 1950s and not 2000 or 1990s. That's important to keep in mind because then we know how old AI as a field is. It's not something that recent. It's almost as old as computer science itself. Now, coming to the timeline, again in a very simple way. What happened if it was born in 1950? What happened from 1950 up till this date? So in 1950 to 1966, the foundations of AI was laid. When I say foundations, I say the algorithms, the implementation, the programming languages, the concepts. They were being built in 1950s. That was the time when we laid the foundations. Come 1966, up till 1990, there wasn't much work done on AI. And that is a time period we call AI winters. Why did that happen? It happened because AI, when we started with scientists, or scientist community started building AI, there were too many promises that were made by the community, and those promises could not be kept. So the research basically dried up, the funding dried up, nobody paid too much attention, and not much of work was done hence. And hence, we had this good amount of time where we didn't hear much about AI, and that was the time for AI winters. In 1990, we again saw an emergence of AI. Why? Because that was a time when the computer hardware was getting better and better and more affordable. Also, with the rise of internet, we had data available freely. Those two factors were the reason why we saw an increase in machine learning applications and AI applications. And 2010 onwards, it has been a huge rise, or almost a revolution in AI field when we saw the rise of deep learning or neural networks. And that is kind of taking the whole field, or growing the whole field at exponential growth. So this is a simple timeline that we need to keep in mind when we think about how AI has progressed from 50s up till now. Coming to how AI has grown in the last recent years, what has happened? One chart explains all, really gives a very good picture. This is a chart that explains what are the investments in AI startups worldwide. Only the startups, not the big corporations, nothing, only the startups. So if we look at, so there are two main points about this curve. First, if we see this red line, if you see this red line here, it's going at an exponential rate. The growth here is exponential, starting from 2011, when the AI startups were funded at less than 1 billion, to now, where in the first quarter of 2018 itself, we saw 12 billion investments worldwide. Now, these are rough estimations, but from a very good source. But you can see that the rise in the investments of AI tells us how AI is basically growing, or how it's going to grow in the next coming years as well. The curve is quite steep. Second important point to note here is, which are the countries taking the lead in AI? Well, US, not a surprise. China, EU, but in EU, we have 3 main countries taking up most of the share, which is UK, Germany, and France. And that's a surprise entry, Israel, somehow. Not Canada. Canada is far behind. Israel, being a tiny, tiny nation, still has lots of investment in AI startups, which is interesting. So this is how AI is basically spread across over all the world. And it's one more important point about, again, when talking about the global picture, how does the governments think about AI? How does governments across the world think about AI? In the past, I do not remember any scientific discipline for which governments across the globe had a strategy. AI is one first scientific discipline for which governments and bureaucrats all across the world are proposing strategy. It's coming from bureaucrats. It's coming from the government, which is not that fast to catch up, but they have caught up quite fast, and all across the world, not just US. I'll play one small video which shows one global leader that we know talking about AI that gives us a hint of how politicians think about AI.
Искусственный интеллект – это будущее не только России, это будущее всего человечества. Здесь колоссальные возможности и трудно прогнозируемые сегодня угрозы. Тот, кто станет лидером в этой сфере, будет властелином мира. И очень бы не хотелось, чтобы эта монополия была сосредоточена в чьих-то конкретных руках. Поэтому мы, если мы будем лидерами в этой сфере, также будем делиться этими технологиями со всем миром, как мы сегодня делимся атомными технологиями, ядерными технологиями. Но чтобы не стоять в конце очереди, нужно над этим работать уже сегодня.
All right. 2 important points about this presentation, about this video clip. First, whoever leads in AI will rule the world. That is the opinion being voiced publicly. Second, interestingly, AI is being compared with nuclear technologies. It's in their minds, in politicians and bureaucrats' minds, it's that powerful a technology. It's that important a technology, which is why they have strategies, national level strategy for AI in the next 5 years. This has not happened ever for any scientific discipline. It's the first time we are seeing this phenomena. And I'll not go through the details of all the countries here, but what's important to note is China and US have very aggressive strategies for AI. Both want to be the leaders, primary center for AI innovation, as China puts it. But I made a study where I was counting how much are each government of all the countries investing or plan to invest in the next 5 years in AI. All those government initiatives taken together across the globe, and just 2 corporations, on the other hand, invest much more than all the world on the other side. Those 2 companies, Amazon and Alphabet. Their investment in R&D of AI is in tens of billions. Governments talking about millions or 1 or 2 billion. They don't even match. They don't even match. Important perspective to keep in mind as to where the innovations will come from. Those 2 companies. Okay. Now I'll move on to 5 industry sectors which I believe will be disrupted or already being disrupted, and some of them will be on the verge of elimination in the next 5 years, and I'll give the reasons why. First sector is quite surprising one, content creation. We always thought that content creation is something that humans can do better because it requires creativity, right? Creativity in what sense? Creativity in imaging, in photography, in fashion, in music, in videos, entertainment industry, media industry, especially the fashion industry, which is so expensive. Now, I have taken examples from this year's research results, which have shown that actually AI can create content in some cases as good as humans, and in some cases better than humans. And what's a USP of AI? When humans create content, they take time, and they're expensive. For example, if you want to create a new music, you require a studio, you require instruments, you require people to play those instruments. What does AI need? Some data and few clicks. It's quite cheap. And that's the game changer. But I'll first play a video where NVIDIA scientists are stating how simple sketch from humans can be turned into amazing photography. And then we can actually extrapolate that learning to fashion as well. So here's a small video from NVIDIA scientists.
What if we were to change all that to rock?
Okay, let's click on rock, and then we can replace the mountain.
And let's try waterfall just by pulling water down from the top then.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be great if everybody could be an artist? If we could take our ideas and turn them into compelling images? This technology allows us to create a smart paintbrush so that if you wanted to create a new picture, you can just draw the shapes of the objects that you want, and the neural network can then fill in all the details. If we add a water feature, the network is able to add reflections, not because we told it that, but because it learned it. Or if we change the ground to be covered in snow, then it knows that the sky also needs to be a different color. I really think this technology is going to be great for architects, designers, people making virtual worlds to train robots and self-driving cars. The input to this model is something we call a segmentation map. It's like a coloring book picture that describes here's where a tree is, here's where the sky is, here's where the ground is, and it doesn't have any details. And then the neural network is able to fill in all of the texture and shadows and the colors based on things that it's learned from a large database of real-world images.
I would like to see that tree reflecting in that pond.
The real advance here is that we're able to synthesize images with a lot more diversity.
All right, so how much input is required from a human to create this kind of photography? If a human does it by himself, how much effort is required? A lot. A lot of time has to be spent in creating something like this. And if we use AI to do this so much in a nice way, how much effort does that need? A few minutes, and that is all. And if we utilize this technology in fashion, what does it mean? Now, fashion designers travel all over the world to get inspirations from different locations or different kinds. For example, Parisian designs are very different from Roman designs and so on. But if we use this technology, a human only has to give a simple pencil sketch of a bag, and the AI will actually fill in all the details. It'll do a remarkable job, and it can create new things, not just what it has seen before. A combination of the old things, actually. So, content creation in fashion and in photography will undergo a major change in the next, and this is very recent research, just this year, so the impact of this research we'll see in the next 2 years or so. The next video is about Mona Lisa. So what AI can do in video. Right? So Mona Lisa, even for humans, is a very complex portrait. And with AI, what we're trying to do is, can we make a video out of Mona Lisa's single portrait? We don't have millions of data points, we just have one portrait of Mona Lisa. Can we make a video based only on that? Yes, we can.
Human face move and generalize this knowledge to paintings as well. The underlying laws are the same, only the style of the output is different. Absolutely amazing.
So, and this is just one short example. Now, Google claims that in next 1 year, they'll have a technology where, given a comic book, they can generate a whole movie out of it automatically. We don't need humans to do that. So content of this kind, up till now, required a lot of human intervention, due to which it has been expensive, really expensive and time-consuming. Now, that may be taken off by AI. While we are talking content creation, now AI, this is kind of this year's research again by OpenAI. So OpenAI is a small company backed by Elon Musk. And this year, they released a surprising statement saying that we have built a text generator which is so good that it is dangerous to release publicly. So they didn't release it publicly because they believed it's that accurate. And they gave a small example. They say, okay, if you give an input storyline of this sort, a train carriage containing controlled nuclear materials was stolen in Sinat today. So if you give just a small summary of what story you want to write, AI can generate a full news article. News article is tough to write. It requires you to be really, really good at writing, grammatically and so on. But just take a few seconds going through this storyline by OpenAI algorithm. It's actually perfect. It's actually perfect. It's not the full article, but the full article was even better. So the point here is AI can generate content in text, news, stories, blogs, given small input by humans. We just need to give it a summary or a theme based on which we want AI to write stories, and it can write stories. The next industry I would like to talk about is customer service. This is a small excerpt from Salesforce research report, which says, correctly says, customer service is poised for an AI revolution. Well, why? Why is it poised for revolution? It says in 18 months, we'll see in service organizations, the use or planned use of AI will increase by 143% in 18 months. So the report was released this year in March. We're talking next year, September, October timeframe. And it also says that the use or planned use of chatbots will increase by 136%. Now, interesting, but why? Why is it happening? Why the phenomenon in customer service organizations? Two reasons. One, in customer service, typically, there are 3 channels by which we receive all customer queries. We have phone medium, we have emails, we have chatbots. In all 3 channels, we require technologies like voice recognition or machine learning for text. Both these technologies are so advanced today, are so matured implementation-wise, libraries-wise, that they can actually do a good amount of work that right now a human agent does, and very reliably so, if done correctly. All right? Now, chatbot is an interesting case. Emails and voice recognition is still easier, I would say. For chatbots, things are relatively more difficult. Why? Because they are typically based on some AI and some rules-based system for the conversational flows. Now, this rules-based system typically breaks quite easily. This is true for all rules-based systems. The rule-based system will break. And now we are having a new field, not a new field, but a relatively growing faster field called conversational AI, which will take away this rules-based system in chatbots and replace it with even better AI, which means chatbots will be much, much better than what they are right now, which is why we'll see an increase in the use of chatbots. And chatbots are basically available all the time. Phone, you have to pick up the phone, and the agent may not be available, right? Emails, you may write the email, but you have to wait for a couple of hours to get the response. Chatbots is instant. So if conversational AI can make chatbot great, well, phone and emails will be used less, chatbots more, which is why we have a specific mention of chatbots here, saying that it'll increase by this percentage. But this is only for 18 months. In 5 years, we can literally see most of the human agents' work in customer service taken over by AI. third field is about cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity has, why do I say this field faces a huge disruption by AI? Because AI has created a lot of good things so far, but in the process, it has also created some demons. And at this point in time, we don't know how to fight those demons. Not even AI research can do that. All right? So one such thing is deepfake. What is deepfake? It was the first deepfake video was launched in 2017. This technology was created in 2017. And now there are online tools freely available using which you can create very accurate, very accurate fake videos of different personalities and launch them online, and that doesn't even take a few minutes. So there were technologies similar to this earlier as well, but what has changed with deepfake is, first of all, it's available to all, it's freely available, those tools, and second, it's very accurate, very accurate. I'll show a small example of such a fake video that caused quite a stir in the US.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, I don't know, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or, how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. It's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some kind of fucked up dystopia. Thank you.
After this video was launched, the members of the US Congress sent a letter to National Intelligence Director requesting a report about what is the impact of deepfakes on the national security and democracy in the US. Because if such things become so easily available, so conveniently available and spread across, let's say, in 100,000s, there is no way to stop it. What's the most troublesome part here? AI research created this. AI research is not able to stop this. We don't know. There's no proper way, even today, after 2 years, to detect that a video is deepfake. We cannot. We can create it, but we're not able to detect it. The research is going full swing on detecting it, but it's not there yet. One paper was launched this year, that too, the accuracy was quite low for detection, which means the cybersecurity people will have a tough time if this grows. One more thing that I would like to mention, this again happened just a few days back, just last month. This was one-of-a-kind theft based on voice synthesis using AI. So some fraudsters called a director of a UK energy company. The fraudsters used voice synthesis to create the CEO's voice. And in CEO's voice, they ordered the director to transfer a large sum of money to their account. It was so real, the director could not recognize that this is a fake call. The German accent, the tonality, AI learned everything. And it did it by very high accuracy. That director who deals with CEO on a regular basis, even he couldn't recognize on phone that this is not my CEO. He ended up putting that money in the account, and the money got wiped off. So this was first of a kind. Again, what's the troublesome part here? It's very easy to create this kind of a thing. The tools are available online. You don't even need to know programming, just some concepts, and that's it. You can create this. So if this spreads, and again, we don't know how to identify a fake voice from a real voice if the fake voice is created this way. So we can create it, we cannot detect it. All right, what about self-driving vehicles? What about this industry? So first thing to note is, just like AI, many people have the myth that self-driving vehicles or self-driving cars were developed or are being developed for the last 10 years. Wrong. We have been as a research community, we have been putting efforts in building self-driving cars for the last 30 years. 30 years is a long time. But the industry started believing these promises, just in the last 10, 12 years. What happened? A lot of companies put in billions and billions of euros in self-driving cars, thinking that self-driving cars will be a reality someday. They'll be able to sell them at a large scale, and it'll be a money-maker thing. Really. Before I go into any detail, we need to understand that self-driving vehicles have 5 levels of self-driving. Level 0, level 1, level 2, which is already there right now. Level 3 and level 4, whatever names they call it, require human to be in the driving seat, even if he's not doing something. So just in case of emergency, there has to be a human in the driving seat for level 3 and level 4. So we can think of it as tech-assisted driving, right? Level 5 is what all this hype and hoopla about. It's totally self-driving car with no human required, no human intervention required. That is truly self-driving cars. Industry promised, and the research also promised, that we will have them self-driving cars, let's say, in 2017. Well, that promise didn't hold up. Then the news came that a lot of industry people said they will sell self-driving cars in 2019 in the US. That didn't happen either. So what really happened? Where did the research go wrong? Did the industry go wrong? Or what happened there? Very simple answer. AI, what is the weak point of AI? Dealing with uncertainty. That's tough. If we use self-driving technology in trams or in metro, it's okay. We can do that. Because uncertainty is quite low. In a metro, you have a tunnel, right? It's an underground tunnel, just one track. Go on there. That's fine. In a tram, slow-moving tram, it's still okay. In a slow-moving truck, it's also still okay. But what happens in a car? In a car, you're on a road. On a road, you can have elderly people crossing, and you can have children running, and there can be n number of situations, infinite situations, that a car may have to deal with. It may have to take decisions very fast. Can it take decisions that fast? Yes. Will those decisions be right? Question mark. Don't know. Which is why we will not see self-driving cars on the roads commercially available in the next 5 years. It was a really tall promise to make, and I believe there's no way we can do this technology-wise. Apart from technology, what are the other perspectives? What about societal acceptance? Are we okay to have millions of self-driving cars out there? Now, AI will have accuracy high, sure, but it will make errors. It will definitely make errors because accuracy cannot be 100%. It cannot be. There will be errors. What is the cost of each error? Loss of human life, most probably. Are we okay as a society for AI to kill the humans on the road? Have you thought about this? Not really. How about regulatory mechanisms? If self-driving car kills a human or one or more humans, who is responsible? How does the law define this? The law does not define this as of now, not even in the US. The laws are not clear. Uber killed a woman last year. Who was responsible? No, we don't know. What happened after that? The woman's family went to the car maker. Car maker entered into some settlement with the woman's family, and the matter was closed. Just like that. And it was not even disclosed properly what was the settlement. So what are the regulatory mechanisms say on the aspect of who is responsible for the deaths if the error is made by AI? We don't know. This last is economic payoff or economic drain. Will it initially be thought it will be a money-making machine if we make self-driving cars? The opinions have changed now. It's again a question mark, depending on what the regulation states. If the regulation states it's car makers' responsibility, car makers will end up basically spending a lot of money in lawsuits or in insurance or medical expenses of the people who have suffered. That will not be a money-making thing. So again, a lot of question marks now, apart from technology also. And since these are still unresolved, they're not easy questions to answer. They're not easy things to frame. it's impossible that we have self-driving cars on the roads of Helsinki in any time in the near future. Long term, possibly. In the short term, no. Last, how about fraud detection? So I'll start with an example of why this is important. In 2015, there was news that Zalando was defrauded of almost 20 million euros in 3 months. And that is a big amount for a company which has annual net profit of 60 million. Out of 60 million, 20 million wiped out in 3 months. Well, and it's not even an established company. It's a 7-8 years old company, almost a startup that time. And investors asked, what's going on? Do you have things under control? Come into this play, basically then automated fraud. I was working in Zalando for some time, and I was responsible for the fraud detection team. So working in that team made me realize how, for fraud detection, what AI can do is remarkable. AI can create systems for fraud detection that are not just accurate, they are so robust. You cannot break into them. They are scalable. If we have operations in Finland and we want to go to, let's say, Poland, we have no data about Poland, we can still scale AI systems for Finland to Poland. That is still possible with zero data for Poland. They are scalable, they're highly accurate as compared to what humans do. Hard to believe, but I saw it myself. They're more accurate than what humans do in fraud detection. But caution, AI has to be done by experts here. It has to be really right, because the companies like Zalando are taking decisions based on AI, right? So if AI is wrong, you take wrong decisions, and you take those decisions on a large scale. You have millions of transactions every week, after all. So what fraud detection can do, AI can do for detection is quite amazing and little known. But I think it's just a matter of time before people realize it, and then comes industries of banking and insurance and e-commerce, of course. That can utilize us. I'll now turn to fears and concerns about AI. The most common concern we have is job losses. Will there be job losses due to AI? A few years ago, AI community was in a defensive mode. They never said, yeah, there will be job losses. They always said if and buts. But now, situation is quite clear, and we know there will be job losses. There's no doubt about it. Next question comes, how many job losses and which sectors will be affected the most? To answer this question, French president, some time ago, made a committee headed by Cedric Villani, who's a Fields medalist in mathematics, to answer the exact same question. How many jobs will be affected in France by AI? When? And which sectors will be affected the most? So his committee made a huge list of who will be affected. I have just taken a few lines from that report. But look at the numbers of jobs exposed. That, if we add up the all amount, not just this one, but the whole report, it will be somewhere around 1 million jobs, and that in the near future. What do we do about it then? We can't stop it. Instead of criticizing it or being sarcastic about it or being defensive about it, it's best to first face the fact that yes, there will be job losses, and then plan for the transformation of the labor market. Labor market has to be transformed in a planned way. If we don't do it in a planned way, it will be done automatically by the markets in a painful way and a slow way. Now, this is something for the governments to do. Corporations can pitch in, can do their bit, but it has to be planned by the governments, individual governments, just like France is doing right now. This is something that we don't typically talk about. We just talk about AI. When we have concerns about fears about AI, we say job losses. That's all that comes to our minds. But the real concern, the real fear for the entire AI community is this: use of AI in autonomous weapons. I'll again play a brief video clip which elaborates this idea of why is it dangerous.
Customer pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half. Nuclear is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy. These are available today.
This is a demo prepared by one of the professors trying to make governments understand, trying to make the society understand what AI can do in military. All right? So when he says AI weapons shorten the war, they will indeed shorten the war. The UN, the United Nations really understood this, and they created a committee looking into the problem, and they tried to ban this whole thing. But 5 very influential countries in the United Nations, they just said, no, we will not support the ban. Which countries are those? US, Russia, understandable, UK, France, and Israel. And they all said, we will not support this ban, which kind of is troublesome because that means they're probably planning to make them or they already have them. So basically, we are authorizing AI to kill humans. We're authorizing them. And the technology that was shown in this demo was already available. It's not something to be built. It's already there yet, already. So this, and not the job losses, is actual fear from AI. Job losses can be handled. This will be hard to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Utopia or dystopia? That's a good question. This was very fascinating. I'm sure all of you agree. Are there any questions in the audience? You know, take this opportunity. So silenced by the nightmare visions, or... I actually have a question.
Sure.
So you mentioned the fact that essentially 2 companies, you know, Amazon and Alphabet, are just largely surpassing investments, even if you look at the whole sort of global scale and governmental investments. What do you didn't really comment on how you think about that and what you think that might lead to?
Those 2 companies so far, if you look at the history, have created something very remarkable. They have not done any inventions that are harmful for the society. They have done mostly things, AI inventions, used for their own business, right? So they have done a lot of open sourcings as well, which are helping us. So I'm not really concerned about what they will do next. Basically, if their history is anything to go by, they have done good things so far. That should be good.
Cool. Any other questions from the audience? If not, give a very, very big round of applause
Thank
to
you.
Nidhi Singh. Thank you.